Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is now just 136 days away from its official release by writer and director J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, what's really exciting about Episode 9 is that we do know that this film is going to offer many different revelations that will lead to saga-wide implications within the Skywalker saga. That's going to change how we view many of the characters related to the original trilogy and even the prequel trilogy itself. Now, I think it's pretty safe to say that one of the more interesting aspects of this film has all to do with Rey's lineage in this story, and how it's all going to be utilized. Now, these past couple of weeks or so, we've been learning a whole lot more about this film, and when it all comes down to one of the concept art descriptions and one of the plans by Disney, Lucasfilm, George Lucas, and even JJ, this is where things begin to get very exciting for Episode 9. Now, specifically, what's really intriguing about all of this is that it's described that during the rewrites of 2018 for the months of November and December, is that George Lucas was significantly involved in adjusting Rey's character in the film when they were planning for reshoots that would take place in 2019. It said that George had gone through many changes to Rey's identity and took roughly 1 month to get everything right. It said that George had made a proposal to J.J. Abrams about Rey's identity, of one of the big revelations in the third act being related to Rey's last name, where it said that Disney and Lucasfilm moved forward with the idea, and that Rey's last name is said to change how all fans will view 2 legacy characters and also 1 sequel trilogy character. It's described in the third act of the film that Rey's last name will cause a conflict within Rey that is said to be a vital part of the plot on how Kylo reacts to it as well as Palpatine. It said that Rey's last name is planned to be printed on many merchandise for the 2020 year, and that her last name is said to be very unexpected for the audience and will affect many of the big characters fans grew up with in, of course, the 70s and the 80s. Now, what's really great about this is that we do know that Rey's lineage is going to be very important in this film. And that was, of course, the big, I guess you could say, assumption for The Last Jedi, and now that's actually being used in full force here by J.J. Abrams in The Rise of Skywalker, doing something quite massive for the character of Rey and her identity, specifically her last name. So, there was a reason, alright? We do know that there was a reason. I don't know if you guys actually saw an older interview from years ago, that there was a reason as to why Rey did not have a last name in The Force Awakens, and JJ did that intentionally. And it really does raise a lot of questions, right? That must mean that it's related to one of the characters that we already know, or it's going to be quite possibly something related to something that we already know about and used in a different way than we would have ever expected. That could very well be a possibility as well. I also want to go over how they plan to print her last name on future merchandise for the 2020 year, which is pretty interesting because a lot of fans just see Rey as Rey. That's it. Kind of like how fans just look at Yoda as Yoda, right? So, I really wonder, how that's really going to fly with fans, of looking at a character that we are all used to just being called Rey, and then calling her Rey blank, whatever it's going to be, in, of course, The Rise of Skywalker, and once it drops, and once the merchandise hits, a lot of fans are going to be calling her something else. Now, I think that's a good thing, in my opinion. I honestly do, because a lot of fans have always been wondering about the character of Rey, who she is, where she comes from, and what's her real identity, like what's really going on here. We do know that this character called Zorii Bliss is going to be connected to Rey's identity and her lineage in The Rise of Skywalker, and is going to be attached to Rey's backstory, so keep an eye open for that. That is portrayed by Kerry Russell, that character, so I honestly am very intrigued about that character, because we do know that she did film 1 scene with Mark Hamill, so that really does bring up a lot of questions as to why she did. We'll have to wait and see. So, as far as Rey's last name goes, I will say that what we went over previously, not too long ago, is that her last name is said to actually be something that's going to change how we view all the 8 movies before this one. And not just that, is that George got the idea from, of course, one of the abandoned comics that were actually not approved by George in the early 2000s. And a whole lot more to it than that. Now, the one thing about this is that I think a lot of fans just want to see the reason as to why Rey is so powerful and why she's so in tune with the light side of the Force, and how she's able to go up against Kylo Ren, etc., right? Without much training. So I think that's all going to be answered, and it obviously will, because we do know that J.J. Abrams said that he's going to answer a lot of questions in The Force Awakens that were not answered, as well as everything related to Rey and whatnot. So that's one thing to look forward to. The other thing is that we also know that George Lucas spent over 1 month, roughly of course, to get this all right, where all the identity changes came into place. So I really do have full faith in Rey's identity reveal in this film, since George was involved with that process for roughly 1 month, which, by the way, is a pretty long time for one little element in the script. But yeah, I would love to hear what you guys have to say about this below in the comments, what you think about everything that's happening here, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to morning.